It's the Joe Show. Hello and welcome to the Joe Show with me, Joe! It's the Joe Show! This is the show where I read an article a day to keep my stupid away. And today's article, let's jump right into it. The headline is way too long for an article. Identical twins compared a vegan diet with meat-eating diet and found the vegan diet led to fat loss and more energy. I mean, they're kind of giving away the hook right there in the headline, huh? From Insider, written by Gabby Landsvik on June 1st, 2020. If you don't know this about me, I was into bodybuilding for about 2 years. I started with, well, actually I could probably just put up pictures. So I started up looking like this. And then I had some check-ins that looked like this. And then I ended up looking like this when I did a full cut at one point. I don't look like that now, especially with the coronavirus. I haven't been going to the gym, so getting a little bit more round, but proportionally I'm still okay. But here we've got identical twins trying two different diets, which I find very interesting. They kind of have the same control right from the beginning. In a lot of these comparative diets, you're comparing two different people that necessarily don't have the same genetics. But with these two individuals, their genetics are very closely aligned with one another, meaning that we have really good information on how a body reacts to a diet. So we can see the before pictures here. On the left, we've got Hugo, and on the right, we have Ross. And they did a 12-week experiment, and this was their first check-in. So let's read and find out what happened to Hugo and Ross. The Turner twins have climbed a mountain and trekked to the most inaccessible points on every continent, all in the name of research, charitable causes, and exploration. For their latest adventure, the brothers trekked into even more fraught territory, comparing the effects of a vegan diet to an omnivorous diet on two genetically identical people. The Turners decided to study the two eating styles side by side over a 12-week fitness training regimen from January to March this year. They were inspired by the growing popularity, and sometimes controversial, vegan diet for athletes following documentaries like The Game Changers, according to Ross. We wanted to take bias and opinion out of it and take it down to a genetic level. We can get science involved because we're twins and genetically identical, so we can compare ourselves in extreme environments, Ross told the Insider. The pair monitored how they felt during the course of the experiment, and they were followed by researchers from King's College who tracked basic health metrics like weight, cholesterol, and muscle mass. Both twins did endurance training at the gym 5 to 6 times a week using a program designed by Ross, who is a personal trainer. They ate almost an identical number of calories in meals prepared by the Mindful Chef delivery service. Actually, I really like that they had an external source preparing their food, measuring everything, and then delivering to them. Kept them very similar in the macros and probably on the calories too. By the end, they noticed some big differences in terms of muscle gains, fat loss, and digestive health. So, who lost the most fat? Before giving up animal products for the experiment, Hugo weighed in at 185 pounds and 13% body fat. After about a month on the vegan diet, he said he had dropped nearly 9 pounds, although he regained some of that during the remainder of the diet. By the end of the experiment, he measured in at 181 pounds. Nearly all the weight lost was from fat mass, and his overall body fat composition dipping by a full percentage point to 12%. His cholesterol levels also dropped. Even more striking were his energy levels. Hugo said he felt significantly more alert during his lunchtime gym sessions compared with his typical routine. On a vegan diet, my mental focus was much better. I didn't have the mid-afternoon energy dips and felt a bit more charged, he told Insider. He said one explanation could be how the vegan diet changed his snacking habits. Since biscuits and chips aren't vegan, he'd switched mainly to fruits and nuts. Hugo noticed one exception to his higher energy levels, his libido, which he said dropped off sharply. I just lost it. I really don't know what happened, he said, adding that his experience may not be true for everyone. So, there's an interesting trade-off. You have higher energy levels, you lose fat, but you're completely disinterested in having sex. Maybe that's why vegans are so calm all the time, is that they're not so motivated by trying to hunt for women or men, whatever you're into. Trolling for your satisfaction. Who gained more muscle during the experiment? Ross gained more mass overall. Ross has always been slightly bigger of the brothers, and this was exacerbated by the experiment. From starting around 13% body fat, he put on 10 pounds of muscle in addition to just over 4 pounds of fat. That brought his overall body fat percentage up slightly to 15% and his final weigh-ins to 189 pounds. His cholesterol levels stayed consistent through the 12-week duration. Ross said the meal plan for this experiment was slightly more varied than his typical diet and extremely balanced in terms of macronutrients, with the array of chicken, fish, red meats, veggies, dairy, and grains. Before this, a typical day of eating for the twins would include toast or porridge for breakfast and some version of chicken, veggies, or pasta for dinner. Whose gut was the healthiest on this? The vegan diet also caused big changes in the gut microbiome. And actually in recent years, the gut microbiome is becoming more and more important. You can pay attention to it when you sit down on the toilet and go to Browntown. How healthy are your poops? It's become more and more important as there's lots of cancers linked to your gut, and also your overall health and blood composition is directly impacted by how well your gut microbiome is absorbing and breaking down nutrients. For Hugo, the dietary change was even more significant, since his usual animal-based protein was swapped out for things like tofu, tempeh, which are fermented soybeans, not personally a fan of, and jackfruit. Eating a vegan diet, you almost have to overcompensate with variety, so I was eating foods I wasn't really used to, Hugo said. As a result, his gut microbiome, the populations of beneficial bacteria that live in the human digestive system, also changed in some interesting ways based on fecal samples analyzed by Atlas Biomed before and after the experiment. The changes potentially improved Hugo's resilience to some forms of chronic illness, according to the analysis, lowering his risks of obesity and type 2 diabetes. That supports previous research suggesting plant-based diets could reduce the risk of those conditions by improving the microbiome. But to their surprise, both brothers saw a decrease in their microbial diversity, or the number of different bacterial species present in the gut. That's generally linked to less resilience against some types of chronic illnesses such as Crohn's disease. Although Ross's microbiome changed slightly, it remained much more consistent than his brother's. It's not clear why those changes occurred, although the Turners hypothesized that the abrupt change to a vegan diet and the relatively short duration of the experiment might have been factors. What did they end up learning from this experiment? The Turners said they plan to incorporate more vegan foods, especially snacks, into their regular diet. One thing to come out of this is that we don't eat nearly enough variety of foods. Often we just disguise the same foods in different forms, Hugo said, but variety is the spice of life. Ross said that there tends to be a reluctance for meat eaters to try vegan foods, and he hopes this experiment will encourage dedicated omnivores to branch out, since many plant-based substitutes like vegan burgers are similar in taste and texture to the classics. Based on his experience, Hugo recommends starting with your snacking habits and swapping out between meal treats with vegan options. The twins concluded that their optimal diet is a mix of plant and animal-based foods. And I actually think that they don't have an after photo, which I think is really kind of disappointing. But I'd looked on the internet and couldn't find any of their after photos. Here we see a vegan meal that one of them had. It looks like some aubergine, some eggplant, maybe quinoa or tempeh, and some Brussels sprouts and edamame beans. Honestly, looks delicious. I've actually been meaning to experiment more with vegan and vegetarian diets. I at one point went full vegan for almost a year and a half, and I honestly didn't see a boost in my energy or more mental clarity. I didn't actually feel great on the vegan diet, so I would be interested in trying again now that there's even more variety of options with the explosion of meat alternatives such as Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger. There's so many other just delicious alternatives now, and jackfruit is kind of a new thing that wasn't really around back then either. So I didn't have as much variety. Plus, I'm allergic to avocado, which is like a staple of vegan diet, so it's really tough for me to go full vegan. I am interested, however, in trying just some more vegetarian bodybuilding regime. When I did my serious bodybuilding, I mean, I didn't do it for 12 weeks. I did it for almost 2 years, and my serious cut, where I had already bulked up and cut down, was about a 15-week process. So 12 weeks is actually a very short amount of time to be doing this. I would be interested to see if the Turner twins would do this again for a year for the better data with blood monitoring as well. That would be even more interesting. And I guess the big takeaways here are incorporate some vegan snacks into your life. Eat some nuts and some fruits. Stop snacking on chips and candy. Eat some fruit and eat some nuts, man. That's been today's Joe Show. If you like my content, hit subscribe below and then tap the bell so that you get a notification when I upload a new video every single day. In the meantime, if you read something good, send me the article to hijoeshow@gmail.com. Otherwise, this has been The Joe Show.